Caitlin goes on a massive run when Caitlin's not even in the game, right? Like, this is not all on Caitlin, you know?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's certainly not all on.
Hello, guys. Welcome back. So this situation just keeps getting more interesting by the day. I wish I run into one of these reporters because some of the narratives being pushed right now are absolutely wild. It all started when Annie Costabile opened her podcast by saying it's not about diminishing what makes Caitlin great. But the way the conversation unfolded had a lot of people questioning exactly what message was being sent. Now, Annie Costabile has every right to share her opinion, but many fans feel like a narrative is being created around Caitlin Clark that doesn't match what they're seeing. We just watched Cheryl Miller apologize to Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White regarding the recent controversy, yet the discussion continues. Then there was Caitlin Clark talking about writing for Steph and supporting Stephanie White. To some people, it sounded natural. To others, it felt rehearsed. Either way, there's more from this live stream that deserves attention because this is where things start getting really interesting. Let's listen to her.
It's not about diminishing what makes Caitlin great. And to your point, it's that competitiveness. It's everything she does offensively, right? She has to cut her runway. She has to acknowledge where her runway ends and understand where she's becoming bigger than the program and how that's impacting her teammates and how it's impacting her ability to impact her teammates. Because at what point are does it become a question of who wants to come into this situation and know that part of their responsibility is going to be to wrangle Caitlin in those sets. Want to piss people off, but
Okay.
my hot take, I think that for the Fever to win a championship, Caitlin Clark cannot be bigger than that franchise. And what I mean by that is not that she can't be everything that's expected of generational talent, right? Like you think about any other league or even any other team in the WNBA that has players, franchise players of this caliber. You know, I'm thinking about Asia Wilson, before that, Candace Parker in LA, and then even in Chicago. Like you go down the list, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird. Teams have had players who exemplify the franchise, become the franchise, embody the franchise. But what I mean is the what's circulating around Caitlin cannot overtake the franchise. And part of that is not even her own fault, right? Like part of that is not even, her doing, in the sense of, we've seen players blow up with their coaches in the past. We've seen these kind of moments happen in past star situations. But what's different here is every single thing that Caitlin does is not only under a microscope, but it's broadcast for everybody to see. And that's something that, whether is deserved or not, she has to carry and has to be something that impacts the way that she moves to a certain degree.
I'm with you. It's very true. Like the aspect that Sue Bird hit on this over the weekend about the dynamics between what we saw between Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark. She was saying man, I've had those conversations. Like that happens. And you're trying to figure out personalities. It's funny because some of y'all know, I also cover the Warriors. And a very similar dynamic happened between Draymond Green and Steve Kerr.
Right.
I think it actually happened twice where they were cussing each other.
Just
However, I mean, this season.
I know, right?
This past season. And in a way where it was caught on tape and shared and discussed, right? Now, the issue is, or the difference is, and some folks might say, but that's different. That is 10 years almost of coach-player dynamic relationship. And they came out, both Steve Kerr and Draymond Green came out and said, this is what happens when you basically have a family. When you get to know each other for so long, you get to have that. And the argument against what happened with the Fever over the weekend is Steph White and Caitlin Clark don't know each other like that. This is not very similar in the sense that they're family members. They're Stephanie White is a coach that was brought in to impact winning and bring winning to an organization, or to build on the winning that they had already established. And Caitlin Clark is a player that was brought in to do the same thing. And this is now personalities and styles and everything and expectations clashing. Now, I do think this idea of Caitlin can't be bigger than the program, I love this idea. And my hot take back to that, Caitlin Clark won't be bigger than the program when her teammates make sure that she's not bigger than the program.
Mm-hmm.
In that clip, you see Kelsey Mitchell trying to calm Caitlin down. We have heard multiple stories in a quote-unquote funny way of Aaliyah Boston calming Caitlin down, Kelsey Mitchell calming Caitlin down. Speaking from someone that has been on teams with crazy people, and when I mean crazy people, I mean people that are just like passionate. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that they're just passionate, right? Caitlin is one of the most competitive people I have ever seen. I mean, I've heard stories about her like losing games in, pre-game warm-ups or whatever, and it like ruins her day. And that is what you want out of your star player. You want someone that is that passionate and that, willing and obsessed with winning. And that's what I say by saying the word crazy. No offense to anyone, please. But
what superstar player has ever won for a franchise and not been bigger than the franchise itself? Think about it for a second. Every true superstar eventually becomes bigger than the organization they play for. That's just how sports work. What happened when Michael Jordan retired? The entire basketball world changed. The league felt different. The Chicago Bulls were never the same. What happened when LeBron left Cleveland the first time? The Cavaliers immediately became irrelevant. What happened when Tom Brady left New England? The Patriots went from being a perennial contender to struggling to find their identity. We've seen this story play out over and over again. Superstar athletes elevate franchises. They bring attention, revenue, fans, media coverage, and championships. So when people say a player can't be bigger than the franchise, what are they talking about? Caitlin Clark is bigger than the franchise. In fact, the reality is even bigger than that. Caitlin Clark isn't just bigger than the Indiana Fever, she's arguably one of the biggest attractions in the entire WNBA. That's why this situation feels so strange to so many people watching from the outside. Now we're hearing conversations about Caitlin Clark needing to take a back seat. We're hearing people suggest that Caitlin Clark should be benched and that Raven Johnson should start immediately. Seriously? At this point, people are starting to ask a legitimate question. Is it time for Caitlin Clark to get the hell out of Indianapolis? Because from the outside looking in, it doesn't seem like the organization has her best interests at heart. The narrative being painted right now is becoming impossible to ignore. It feels like there are people who want the story to be about the Fever first and Caitlin Clark second. But what superstar athlete doesn't have their life broadcasted to the world? Michael Jordan did, LeBron did, Tom Brady did. Every major sports star has been under a microscope. So now people want to criticize Caitlin Clark because she's popular, because cameras follow her, because fans show up to watch her play? That's not her fault. That's what happens when you're a superstar. And then there's Annie Costabile. Annie Costabile is one of the biggest insiders in the entire league. Everybody knows that. She's one of the most connected reporters covering the WNBA today. Some people view her almost like the messenger for the league, similar to what Scott Agnes has been around Indiana basketball circles. That's why when certain narratives start appearing, people notice. Many fans believe there's an effort underway to paint Caitlin Clark as the villain. Whether that's intentional or not, that's how it's being perceived by a growing number of people. The message seems to be that everything somehow becomes Caitlin Clark's responsibility. Everything becomes her burden to carry. Everything becomes something she has to answer for. And that's where the Stephanie White situation enters the conversation. Here's the thing. Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark are co-workers. They're employed by the same organization. They're both working toward the same goal. Yet sometimes it feels like Stephanie White is trying to talk down to Caitlin Clark, as if she's a child being disciplined. But that's not the relationship. They're co-workers. A coach isn't a parent. A coach isn't a guardian. A coach is a manager within the organization. And when we're talking about a generational superstar, history tells us that superstar players often carry more influence than coaches. We've seen it countless times. Look at LeBron, look at the Lakers, look at Cleveland, look around professional sports. Superstar players have always held tremendous power because they are the faces of the franchise. So when people see a situation where Stephanie White appears to have significantly more influence than Caitlin Clark, they're confused because that's not how history usually works. What happened with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady? Eventually, Tom Brady left New England, and what happened after that? Eventually, Bill Belichick was gone too. What happened with LeBron in Cleveland? Coaches changed. What happened with Darvin Ham in the Lakers? Darvin Ham had to go. What happened with Tyronn Lue in Cleveland during those turbulent years? Changes happened there too. Time after time, organizations choose to build around superstar players because superstar players drive everything. That's why many fans believe Caitlin Clark should have a stronger voice within the organization. Some even argue that if things continue in this direction, Caitlin Clark needs to draw a line in the sand. If the future comes down to a major decision, some fans believe it should be simple. It's her or me. Because Caitlin Clark isn't just another player. She's not just a number on a roster. She's a generational talent, and generational talents don't come around often. Another moment that caught people's attention was seeing Kelsey Mitchell appear to calm Caitlin Clark down during a game. We've heard stories, we've seen clips, we've watched interactions where Kelsey Mitchell appears to be telling Caitlin Clark to move over, settle down, or stand somewhere else. Whether those moments are being interpreted correctly or not, fans notice everything. Every interaction gets analyzed, every reaction gets discussed. That's the reality that comes with being a superstar athlete. The spotlight never turns off. And right now, all eyes remain on Caitlin Clark, Stephanie White, Kelsey Mitchell, the Indiana Fever, and what happens next. Because whether people like it or not, Caitlin Clark remains one of the biggest stories in all of basketball. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.